least a lot, mostly through education. Again, education is the key element. That's what separates. That's what gives people a chance to pull themselves out. At least most of the time it has. It's slowing down today because we're in a world economy and these kids have to go so deeply in debt to even get an education. It's horrendous what my generation of politicians have done, starting pretty much with Reagan. We've made it almost impossible for kids to go to college. And back after the Second War, we paid people, the greatest generation, we paid your grandfathers and people to go to college because we could see the importance of investing in young people. Today, we've almost abandoned them. You're kind of on your own, you know, and that's not right. Hopefully that'll change.
Let's see. Could you talk a little bit more, I know you kind of mentioned it when you were talking about St. Ambrose, but the Kennedy administration, kind of how things were on a national level down to Davenport itself. I know you mentioned it when you were talking about St. Ambrose, but
well, the Kennedy administration were obviously Irish Catholic. St. Ambrose, heavily Irish Catholic, and you know they were you know, exciting people. There was so much pride that an Irish immigrant or second generation got elected, was running for president of the United States. And I remember when John Kennedy came to Davenport in about October of 1960 before he got elected, and I saw him downtown Davenport on 2nd and Main Street, and I was just I was a young Democrat, just getting into college, and I was just watching and interested in the whole thing, and then I went to work that night. But you know, to follow his rise, it made young people proud and made you feel good that anybody can make it. And of course, he was Irish Catholic, and that made it extra exciting. And the faculty at St. Ambrose were open and receptive to him. Obviously, a lot of Catholic faculty there, and you know, he was just a hero for our generation. And so that led to, you know, a lot more involvement in politics, and more inspiration and more enthusiasm. And you know, John Kennedy, as inaugural, said it so well, and I'll never forget the words. And it says it's really what the Catholic social philosophy and theology is all about. He said, with a good conscience, our only sure reward, with history the final judge of our deeds, let us go forth to lead the land we love, asking His blessing and His help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own. And if you listen to the words, it says it all. For anybody, regardless of your field of expertise or you know, job, your work, we're really here for a purpose, and it's higher than all of us. And you've got it's an idealistic thought for the future and what we should be doing right here, trying to make a difference in the lives of people. And that was really what the social philosophy of St. Ambrose University College was all about. Those teachers gave their lives to try to make life better for everyone else, whether it be working labor workers, factory workers, you know, civil rights, minorities, peace. One of the chief priests in the peace movement was Father Jack Smith, who dedicated his later years. He was a history professor. I had him for several classes. History of the United States from beginning until 1865 and 1865 on. And his commitment was to peace and justice. And he left a tremendous influence on people. And what he said was right. They resisted the war in Vietnam, pointed out the failures. And here we are repeating ourselves with this insane war in Iraq. You know, we're still killing people. We haven't really learned. But I would like to see more students protesting the war. I try to figure out why was it they were so much activists in the 60s, and today they're kind of docile and complacent. I guess part of it's because they're just busy working. You know, the cost of college is so high they just maybe don't have the time. It wasn't that expensive. You know, you could work in the summer and pay your tuition. That's not the case today. But a lot of it is the influence of the faculty. And the faculty back then influenced the students greatly. And there was a mission, and there was a purpose, and a reason you were there. And it wasn't just to look out for yourself and make money, though a lot of them went on to do that. But it was to try to change the world, to try to make a difference in society, and live up to the Gospels and the higher calling of mankind and common good. Barack Obama has brought huge numbers of young people. I mean, that's one of the exciting things about this presidential year. People your age are saying, we've had enough. We're going to fight back. We're going to make a difference. We're going to get involved. And we're going to change the world. And he echoes that message all the time. And that's why I'm a strong supporter of Barack Obama. I haven't seen that much excitement among young people in all ages now, actually, since the Bobby Kennedy, and I helped in his campaign years ago. But I'm glad to see that idealism has been reignited, because change mostly comes about when young people demand it and take the leadership role and push, you know, and the older ones could give it some direction, but it's your future and the next generation, and you've got to constantly look to change things. And so it's an exciting year, and this 2008. And I see some great things coming, and hopefully we can change the world in keeping with the encyclicals and the social gospel of the Catholic Church and a number of other progressive groups.
I think it requires going back to traditions of the past and recovering a lot.
A lot of it is going back and remembering our roots. But it may be different people, but we now, you know, the whole immigration issue. There are immigrants coming in from Central America, Latin America for a job. Sometimes people today forget they were all immigrants. My mother was an immigrant. My grandfather was an immigrant. They weren't very well thought of when they first came over here, a lot of them. You know, poor white shanties, you know, Irish trash. And there was a lot of negatives, you know. But they worked their way out of that, but mostly because of education. There were more jobs. But I'm an optimist, and I think things are going to work out if we keep working at it and get away from materialism, and it's all about me and greed and individual and what's, you know, Reagan unfortunately set a terrible tone, Ronald Reagan, when he says, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Well, it should be a society better off today, not me. It's not about me. It should be about society, about the common good. You know, our Declaration of Independence, you know, calls upon us to create, or the Constitution, a more perfect union, says that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, you know, and that we should be working to perfect it, make a more perfect union. And that's things like health care, and, you know, end the wars, and you know, jobs and economic growth and development in underdeveloped countries, and sharing the world's resources, addressing the whole issue of the environment. That's a social commitment. You know, the Gospels talked about that we're supposed to be stewards of the world, but our generation has done a very poor job. We're destroying the world, you know, and hopefully your generation, next generation, and we're starting to correct it, but we'll keep our feet to the coal fire and make us change our policies and recognize that we're in a you know, a global situation, and we all are responsible for our actions or lack of actions. I mean, and there's been progress. I mean, I think of smoking. When I grew up, everybody smoked. I would play around smoking when I was 6 or 8 years old, pick cigarettes out in front of church and save them and go smoke them, but never got addicted to it. But they gave cigarettes out like candy to service people, and we had a whole generation, including both my father and my father-in-law. They were all addicted to smoking, and my mother-in-law, and they died of cancer as a result of it. And we've got people all over our Veterans Hospital who got or lung cancer and emphysema from puffing on cigarettes. Well, thank God, you know, there's been a change. Your generation, hardly anyone smokes. It's like, just, you don't do that in polite society today. But it's been slow changing. The same thing in the Civil Rights Movement. I've seen great progress. We wouldn't think about using the N-word like they used to. It was just a matter of course of rhetoric years ago. The Civil Rights Movement, the women's movement, major fundamental social change in this country has come about in the last, you know, during my generation.
1970s, I believe.
Yeah, and that didn't happen easily. So we're making progress. Whether we're going to make it fast enough, time will tell.